Hello and welcome back to my GTNH playthrough. It is October 13th and we are in an empty room. And that is because over the weekend, this is below my church area for like Thaumcraft. Over the weekend I decommissioned all the nuclear reactors I had over here, as well as below my fuel building. I had been powering those guys still off of the thorium reactors up to this point. So this would be the church. That was my original MV base. This is where I was am still producing C18 boosted diesel, and over here is where my clean room is. And all this stuff was powered off of various thorium reactors, but I tore all these guys down, mainly because A, I make way more power than those could even come close to, and B, it just kind of eliminates random safety hazard that was kind of pointless, which will kind of become more important later as I talk about some of the changes over the weekend. But this was where the last of the reactors were. I basically just swapped them all to being powered off the main battery I set up last weekend, and like I said, for the safety wise, it was important because none of these reactors were surrounded by warded glass or anything. They were just out in the open, so if they went off, they were taking this whole part of the world with them. But that was all I really did over here. Technically, I changed all the energy hatches on all these guys to be EV, and then with the exception of this distillation tower, which is the one that is processing my raw oil, I made this guy IV, but everything else is EV. It's more than what I need for it, but we still do use this CBD for the miners currently, so I do want to keep it like keeping up should I need it or start pushing it. But I have been slowly taking the rest of the base off of power. Also, I could have swore I just slept before I started recording, but no big deal. So for the rest of the weekend, let me hop up here. Oh, it's actually finished. So I did end up crafting the tier 4 rocket. I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do on Saturday, so I ended up just doing that. The tier 4, and then the only kind of real thing of note for crafting the tier 4 versus all the others is specifically the heavy duty ingot. Heavy duty tier 4. That's the tier 5. Where are we at? Tier 4 ingot. So to actually craft this guy, you need to use the assembly line, and this is the first instance where you need to use 2 of an item that is not enough to like fill up the input bus. So like if you just drop this pattern as it is in my current setup, it'll go heavy duty plate, and then it'll drop all 6 of these compressed ice into one input box, and then the 4 Ridit. What I didn't do, but I should have, and I will do before I start crafting the tier 5 rocket, which feels like I'm really close, but also not entirely sure, is I would replace these 2 in the pattern with named items like CIP1, CIP2, and then run those through industrial press. I set one up over here. This one isn't really connected to the network, but I just kind of wanted to test how it worked. So in this case, this was me just playing around with it. Like right now, if I were to throw an item in here, it would get renamed. So like if I throw this cable, now this cable is called Ridit Fine 1. Obviously that doesn't really do me any good, but it does work. So in this case, I'd set up 2 input buses with, like I said, RID or CID1, CID2, and basically add patterns to rename those guys. I believe I'm just going to throw these down by the assembly line and then just kind of use them as needed for all that stuff. But I did not set up that pattern. I only ended up needing, I believe, 13 of those heavy ingots, so I just did it by hand because I don't know. I just didn't feel like setting it up at the time. I probably should have, because I'm going to have to go back and set it up anyways, because unsurprisingly the tier 5 ingots need the tier 4 ingots, so I just put off work. But for my actual visits, I did go, like I said, I crafted that rocket, and then I basically went to each of these 3 planets just to craft each of its tasks. So like I went to Venus, got all the crushed ingots that are crushed ore for these guys, for Quantium, Titanium, and Naquata. I didn't end up setting up a miner on Venus just because I did not like being there. To be on Venus, you need to have a spacesuit, which is this guy up here. The only thing of note is don't be like me. Hold your 4 pieces of your spacesuit before you craft the jetpack and the fancier feet, or else you'll have to craft a second of them to get that quest done, which is on the space race tab. But the reason with Venus is so since I was in that space armor to not die there. This doesn't have night vision, and then all of this together brings you back to base speed. I did not have the charger crafted yet to be able to use this jetpack to at least move faster, but you move so slow at base speed. You kind of forget how slow you are when the game starts. And then obviously it has really long nights and dark, and I was kind of being a doofus and didn't sleep in my cryogenical bed for a while. But you know, even when you're digging underground to grab the ingots, or grab the ores to complete the quest, it was just not exactly the most fun to do, but got that done. I did end up setting up a miner on Mercury just specifically to get this infused gold. I don't know if or how soon I'll need this, but I know I've seen it pop up in recipes when I've been looking for other stuff, so figured I might as well drop that one down. And then on that was IO that I set that down on. Then on Mercury I set a miner down on a enriched Naquata ore, but then I set up a storage bus over in ore processing with a super high priority to capture this, so I could at least hold it in my hand before it processed. And then that was basically it for the tier 4 rocket. From there, I did see that I was going to start needing a bunch of trinium, and I was getting myself confused with some of the Naquata ore. So to get the way I chose to go about getting trinium, which I've only used as far as I'm aware for one crafting recipe so far, but trinium dust. So the route I went was this guy right here, where we take enriched Naquata oxide mixture to get this trinium sulfide dust, and then from there you take the trinium sulfide and mix it with hydrogen, and you get trinium and sulfuric acid. That's what these 2 LCRs are doing here. It looks like I probably went through everything, huh? Yeah, I got 3 full oxygen, trinium oxide. Why is this not running? Not enough fluid output space. Sulfite waste, enriched Naquata rich solution. Pretty sure I have that set up. Enriched waste. Oh, I see. I do not have a cell set up for waste liquid. We can fix that real quick. 64k. Grab this, grab one of these. And we'll just, I know I have a cell thing up here. This. Boom. And come down to here. I probably need to throw another ME drive up here, but that should start that LCR back up. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, I thought that was my mistake, because this is that waste liquid's actually this last portrait right here for the Naquata line, but I thought I had set up a cell previously, so that was my bad. That's been sitting for like good 24 hours at this point where it could have been running, but alright. So anyways, that was how I went about trinium. Like I said, I did not really get much for trinium, or use trinium for very much so far. So for the me messing around with the tier 4 rocket, from there I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I kind of have a bunch of just kind of random things that I had set up. Actually, I got this one done. Where is my healing axe? That's done. That's done. That's done. That's done. LUV components. That's done. Oh, okay. So quantum armor and Volcanus are the only things left in my goals I set up the other day. So that's pretty cool. But so while I was kind of conflicted about like what to start working on next, I ended up finally setting up this guy. This is my fluid solidifier. With it though, I pretty quickly ran into needing an LUV recipe in here, which I'll go through here in a second. So I did end up having to set up and craft this rhodium plated glass. This is a new one for me. I had been using the tungsten glass on everything, but I did get this guy up. The way this guy works is kind of interesting. So the more recipes you have going, like actively, it speeds up, and then if you do like one at a time, it's pretty slow. So the like it highly encourages crafting in bulk. This guy cannot be overclocked to the next tier though, so I did have to craft a LUV energy hatch for it, but the LUV energy hatch just seems to be crafting just fine, not really putting a strain on my system, because I haven't made the fourth one for over here, but all these blast alloy furnaces I set up, they are all running on LUV. Basically set all these guys up for the higher tier alloys that why? Oh yeah, that's gonna throw me off a few times. So but things like this molten laphium compound or this Xeron 100, which I ended up having to craft a ton of on Sunday yesterday. But so all these are just different various LUV things that I just wanted to set up, and since you can't overclock this guy, I just decided to make more of these because it feels like these random alloys are getting better. But what kind of inspired me to get going on this guy was I started to mess with the Netherite line here in LUV. So when I haven't clicked on this check mark because I don't feel like I'm right into it yet, but I kind of went in here and looked at what I needed to get started. So I'll kind of go from the bottom to the top. So this ancient debris collection, basically ancient debris, if you played newer Minecraft, is what gets you break it and then you process it to get netherite. If you already have a generated world, this won't spawn, as far as I'm aware, in chunks that you already have spawned. So I did go and set up a miner way far away from my portal just to start collecting this stuff, and I'm not actually even sure where I'm at. I checked to see if I was getting some to make sure it was working, but yeah, it's pretty rare. So I'm using the tier 2 ore miner, and so it's been running for probably 8 hours now, and I only have 86 of these guys. So as far as I understand, though, from looking at the quest book, it does recycle, I believe, right here. Yeah, so technically you only need 2 pieces of scrap, as they constantly cycle from hot to cool while never actually being used up in the process, though your setup efficiency can be improved by having more. So I don't know how much I'll ultimately need to keep being efficient, but I did set up that miner just to make sure I had all these on hand. The next thing is this nether air. So my original plan was in the nether, I set up a basically this vacuum freezer with an air intake hatch, because the way it works is you use an air intake hatch into a vacuum freezer, and then the vacuum freezer takes the nether air and turns it into Nether air. Go in vacuum freezer, turns it into this nether semi-fluid. I ended up changing my mind on how I was doing that though, because again, since all my stuff that isn't on the main power network uses CBD, that was limiting it to being processed at EV. So what I did instead was I just set up 4 intake hatches not attached to a multi-block with a pump connected to the bottom, all being pumped into this ender tank right here, though, you know, obviously the other side, and then it's dumping into basically this guy to get a nice backlog, and then running here in this vacuum freezer, and this vacuum freezer is running at Ivy, so I am processing it faster. Again, I'm not really sure how much of this stuff I need, so for right now it's just running crazy until it fills up its cell. And that was actually the first thing I set up, so I have 11 million of this nether semi-fluid, which I assume will be enough. This guy right here is the Bouldernator. This is basically a rock breaker. This is the first time I've crafted this particular multi-block. So all this guy's job is right now is to take my excess glowstone and then turn it into netherrack. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, it literally is just input hatch, glowstone, output bus, and then I cannot remember, what am I pumping in here? Oh yeah, you have to pump in lava, and then I just have a water hatch on here to make it work. It's basically just functions the same as the single block one, which is actually what I still have set up to make obsidian down here. That little water block down in the distance, that's a rock breaker set up for obsidian down there. I put this level emitter on here just so I don't accidentally run through all my glowstone, because we do use that for wafers. So that's this guy. I basically just have it set to keep 10,000 netherrack in here. Then I'll probably do another level emitter on this side over here for this thing, just so that, again, because if this guy keeps running, that level emitter is kind of pointless, all things considered. Now this multi-block is basically what I spent the tail end of yesterday and today crafting. Although that being said, I didn't really play a lot today, so it was just kind of the thing is though that this was a slow craft, and kind of like a LUV infrastructure hat, or check, I should say, more so than like the platinum and monzonite lines down here, or even like the platinum metals, where basically the entire thing could be done at EV, or a lot of it even at HV, except for some of the smelting of like osmium, rhodid, and osmiridium. This guy, all the different components require this Xeron 100 stuff, which by itself, over here, I mean, this is a 360-second recipe by itself to just get this, and then for solidifying, you need to have it at LUV to solidify it, and then like every processing part, like say you want a Xeron rod, extrude it at LUV. Now, what I didn't think about later till right before I started recording this and like kind of deciding what I wanted to make sure I went over today, I was like, oh, you know, in reality, instead of solidifying it into the ingot, I should have just had the different components solidify out, with the exception, of course, of like the dense Xeron plate or double Xeron plate, because these you do need to have the ingot form to get to it, but everything else, like the rod, the plate, it's a single plate. Like I could have thrown these guys in the solidifier and saved myself some time, because I mean, it takes literally doubling the time to get this. So that solidifier, and now that it's set up, if I utilize it right, it's going to be a really powerful multi-block for me. But all of these components, like I said, they take a long time. Like each of these blocks was supposed to take a minute. So the one of the main things I did today that was kind of like more like, I guess, meta to the game versus in the game itself, was move where the server is running. So I've talked about before that I don't normally play on the computer that I'm like recording on right now during the day. I actually have a laptop that I take with me to work runs both the server and the game. I did that because I read that like long term it's kind of like helps it perform better. But while I was crafting these blocks in particular, I finally noticed my first signs of lag, and it's kind of weird because it's not like lag in the game. Like you can even see up there, like my FPS counter is 120, but like the server TPS was falling behind. Like if you looked at my server log, it was saying constantly 2,000 milliseconds behind, 1,000, 11,000 milliseconds behind, etc., etc. So these blocks that were supposed to take a minute to craft were taking like a minute 45. And I only noticed because I was watching a movie and I like set 41 of these, which is what I need for this block to craft. Although I kind of cheated at the moment and just threw some input blocks on here just to finish crafting this to make sure it worked. Like I said, they were taking nearly 2 minutes. I was watching a movie. I was like, okay, I'll come back in 41 minutes and set it up. And then only half of them were crafted. I was like, what is going on? And I started watching the timer here, and instead of taking a second for a second, I was like, oh god, it's taking 2 seconds per second. So I did move this over. The computer I actually record these videos on is substantially more powerful than my laptop. Not that my laptop's like bad or anything, but it'll be a good stress relief off that thing, and this will run better. Plus, I'm also able to accumulate a lot more RAM to this server now that it's on this desktop. The only reason I was kind of nervous with doing that, like I won't ever want to upgrade my nuclear reactors, for example, if I am not at home, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. I think I might use something like TeamViewer or something if I really need to get into restart the server or what have you. It'll just suck if internet's down at work and I can't play, but woo is me problems there, not being able to play Minecraft at work if the internet's down. But honestly, so far I'm seeing a huge performance. It's actually noticeable too in how quickly the server took to restart on this computer versus my laptop, so that'll be nice. I think also tonight I might go back to my laptop being Java 25 and see how the game feels, because supposedly it's supposed to be better, but it only works client side and not server side. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that was basically it for the weekend. I feel like I'm probably missing a bunch of little things. Actually, I'll just show one little thing. I have been slowly going around with as I'm doing stuff, and I needed more batteries, for example, over the weekend. So these two, the canning machine and the fluid canner, I updated how I have these patterns set to be the subnetwork style versus using an interface with Ender IO conduit. I've just been doing kind of going around doing little stuff like this as I go. And then over here, because I was running out of storage, the amount of items I have in this B base is ridiculous. So I crafted weird. I don't know. I must have shut down the server or something afterwards, because I swore I put some 124k cells in here. Well, I'm glad I hopped over here to show. They didn't even craft. What the hell? Well, I'm going to craft those because I need way more storage over here to get this to work. Because everything was shut down because all of these were completely backlogged and full. I have so many items in here. It's ridiculous. If I clear out, I've got a ton of... The fluids I'm not worried about because all these have void overflows in them. But, I haven't even been processing my tungsten and titanium combs, so I've got a ton of this stuff. So just little things like that on the weekend, and just throughout while I was waiting for that stuff to craft up there. But anyways, I am going to... My goal tomorrow is to kind of push through the Netherite line or see what I need to do. From what the tooltip says, is apparently it's really straightforward, but I think if that's the case, now that I have that Insa mill multi-block that was really expensive, hopefully the rest of it is a little more, not as strenuous or uh, take as long time to craft, because I think the actual milling multi-block, something I crafted for it took 720 seconds as a crafting time, but I can't remember what particular block it was because I saw that and I went about doing stuff like cleaning up around my real house. So anyways, I hope everybody has a good night. I'm gonna get back to working on this netherite line, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.